Hello and welcome. Today we're digging into a couple of really powerful stories from the Gospel of Mark, and they get at this huge idea: what happens when divine reality crashes right into the human frameworks we build to make sense of the world.
So let's just pose a question right at the start. How do you follow up a miracle? I mean, really think about it. If you're one of Jesus' closest followers and you've just seen him do something impossible, what comes next? You'd think, okay, I'm ready for anything now. But, well, that's where things get really interesting.
The disciples had a front row seat to one of the most incredible miracles, feeding a massive crowd with just a handful of food. They saw it with their own eyes, and yet, just a few hours later, they're on a boat in the middle of a lake, and they are completely terrified by Jesus. So the big question is, why? What could possibly scare them after what they had just seen?
And Mark gives us the answer right here. He says they hadn't understood about the loaves, their hearts were hardened. They saw the miracle, sure, but they totally missed the meaning behind it. And that phrase, hearts were hardened, that's really significant because it's the exact same language Mark uses for the religious leaders who are constantly opposing Jesus. So his own inner circle, his disciples, they're kind of in the same boat, no pun intended.
This failure to understand really comes into focus in the very next story we're looking at. This is where Jesus doesn't just do another miracle, he reveals something absolutely profound about who he is.
The scene is just so dramatic. We're talking the middle of the night, probably between 3 and 6 a.m. These guys are exhausted, they're rowing against the strong wind, and they're getting nowhere. And then they see a figure, and he's walking towards them, on top of the stormy water, like it's a sidewalk. In this one single moment, Jesus makes 3 huge claims about his identity. First, the act itself, walking on water. In the Old Testament, that's something only God can do. Second, the text says Jesus intended to pass by them. That phrase is a direct echo of how God revealed his glory to Moses and Elijah. And third, when he speaks, he says, I am, or ego eimi in the Greek. This is the divine name, the same one God used to introduce himself to Moses at the burning bush.
So you have this triple-layered revelation of divinity happening right in front of them, and what's their reaction? Their human framework just completely breaks. They don't see their teacher revealing his true identity. Nope, they see a ghost, and they freak out. Their fear is proof that they are completely missing the point. Their hearts are still hard.
But this inability to see past a human framework isn't just a problem for the disciples. Mark brilliantly follows the story with another group that's stuck in their own ways: the religious leaders. So a whole delegation of Pharisees and legal experts travels all the way from Jerusalem, the center of religious power, just to confront Jesus. And what's their big issue? His disciples aren't washing their hands according to a specific ritual before they eat. Now, this is crucial. They're not breaking a command from God. They're breaking the tradition of the elders, basically a set of man-made rules. And this right here is the heart of the conflict. The Pharisees are totally focused on external things, human traditions, ritual acts, making sure everything looks pure on the outside. But Jesus, he immediately pivots the whole conversation to what actually matters: God's commands and the internal state of a person's heart.
And Jesus doesn't just argue with them, he completely dismantles their entire system with one single devastating example of their own hypocrisy. He starts with this incredibly sharp, almost sarcastic line. He's basically saying, wow, you guys are really good at finding clever ways to ignore God's law just so you can keep your own rules. And then he gives them Exhibit A.
He brings up this religious practice they had called Corban, and the idea was that a person could formally declare their money or their property a gift devoted to God, dedicating it to the temple.
So here's how the loophole worked. The law of Moses clearly commands everyone to honor their parents, and that included financially supporting them when they got old. But using this Corban rule, a son could tell his needy parents, sorry, can't help you. All my money is Corban. It's dedicated to God. And the religious leaders actually upheld this. They let a human tradition completely cancel out one of God's most fundamental commandments.
So after exposing their flawed system, Jesus turns to the crowd and he lays out the ultimate lesson. He gets right to the core of what it means to be truly clean or unclean.
I mean, this is a revolutionary statement. Jesus is saying that real defilement, real impurity, it's not about what you eat or if you wash your hands a certain way. It's not about external stuff at all. Real impurity comes from the inside, from the human heart.
And what comes out of the heart? Well, it gives this whole list. You can see it here: greed, malice, arrogance, deceit, all of it.
These are the things, Jesus says, that truly make a person unclean before God. It's an inside job, not an outside one.
Okay, so let's tie these two seemingly different stories together. You've got a terrifying night on a boat, and then this heated debate about hand washing. What on earth do they have in common?
Well, it turns out both groups were trapped by the exact same problem. They were blinded by their own limited, human-made frameworks. The disciples' hearts were hardened, so their minds just couldn't compute a divine reality that didn't fit their expectations. And the Pharisees' hearts were so devoted to their human traditions that they were blind to the actual spirit of God's law. Both of them were failing to see the reality that was standing right in front of them.
And this is why these ancient stories are so powerful for us. They force us to ask a really tough question. What are our blind spots today? What cultural assumptions, or political traditions, or just rigid ways of thinking might be keeping us from seeing a deeper truth that's right there in front of our own eyes? It's definitely a question worth thinking about.